Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, a veteran in this channel, welcome back for yet another exciting episode of Risk, Money and Insurance. And so today, I wanted to say, as you can see from the title of the video, we are just wrapping up, the whole property series that we were doing, and also just having a mini check-in because, I disappeared, right? I mean, I went AWOL and I just came back. And to be quite honest, it took a while for me to record again. And I'm so happy to be sitting here today recording this video for you guys. And it's just one of those things where I was just like, man, I actually miss recording YouTube videos. But we'll get to that at the end of the presentation. So I am quite sure that you guys have caught up with the property series, all the videos that we have released. I think I brought in some amazing guests that shared their experience, and I truly appreciated people who gave feedback. It sounded like there was a lot to learn from all those videos, and I do hope that if you haven't watched those videos, you will go back and watch all of them. I try to tailor the questions specifically, to sort of answer questions that I do get asked. So it was really interesting to hear what my guests have to say, their opinions on certain things. I really enjoyed, all the videos from Sipo, all the way to Klulani, all the way, to my own journey as well. I tried to bring, just some sense of honesty and really just vulnerability to all the conversations. And I figured that there were a couple of questions that were left unanswered simply because we were meant to have a final guest for the last episode of the property series. But honestly, she's a busy lady. She's a big shot property lawyer, but she couldn't make it. So I ended up deciding, let me just do a sit down video with you guys, and we can chat through some of the questions that popped up and some of the questions that I had initially just set down or written down for her. So the one thing I would like to clarify, I got a question around, what are some of the expenses that if you are investing in property, you should, be aware of. And I feel like I alluded to this when I was doing the property, the very first property episode. So what you need to be aware of is, of course, your bond repayments, and then there's insurance as well, which can be like a life cover, or you can take out a home mortgage protection cover, right, where you are essentially just covering the outstanding amount on your mortgage. Then you can also just think about rates and levies. It's also important to ask for statements to see how much those were, right, before you commit. You also need to think about your utilities as well, so water, electricity, refuse, or whatever, dump removal, all those things, you need to consider them. So it's quite significant additional costs, and especially if you are renting out the property and you're using agents and all of that to help you manage your properties, then you need to factor in the costs that comes with those agents as well. But I think the big upfront cost with just buying property overall is around of course the transfer fees, when they transfer the name from another person's name to your name, there by the deeds office, and that's assuming, of course, you're buying a property that's already under someone else's name. If it's not under someone else's name, if it's a new development, then it will be under your name, so you don't need to pay the transfer costs and all of that. But bond registration costs, you'll have to pay those if you're going to use a bond and all of that. So I think that was just one question that stood out. not. So the discussion with the property lawyer was going to be around specifically, just OTPs and all of that. I did share my own story, how it went about. Like, you can't just get into an OTP and decide you want to get out. It's quite difficult. And even on Instagram, there was a lady I was chatting to. She was also just like in that sticky situation that I was in with a developer, where they're just taking too long and all of that, and she wants out, but they're saying no, you can't get out. So it's quite important to recognize how legally binding and serious an offer to purchase is. So it's essentially like an agreement, and you're essentially just signing, or like literally expressing your intentions to buy a certain property. And it's a very long document. It comes with really long and complicated terms and conditions. So I would definitely say, if I had to look back and give my own self advice, I would literally tell myself to send that offer to purchase to a lawyer. And the reason why I say that is because the offer to purchase, normally it will be the person selling the property, or the agent, or whatever, or the developer whom their lawyer will write down, that contract that you have to sign. So because it's the other party's lawyers who are writing that contract, of course they're going to try to protect, their client. That's the main priority, to protect their client. So it won't necessarily protect you as a buyer getting into that agreement. And considering how difficult it is to get out of an offer to purchase, I'd say rather have a lawyer look into that to say, am I protected by this agreement? If not, then what sort of terms and conditions can we put in to ensure that I am protected, and we are also holding the other party accountable? Because it's just one of those things where you don't want to rush it and just say, oh, I love this property, I'm signing an offer to purchase, without understanding what is in there. So I would definitely tell myself to go see a lawyer. It doesn't matter how much the legal costs. It's better to incur those costs and get into a contract knowing that you are fully protected, rather than just get into a contract which you might discover that you want to get out of tomorrow, and the terms of the contract are so binding such that you can't just walk away. So it's very important. And there are penalties. Oh my gosh, English. There are penalties that you may have to pay, right? For example, I know with the other OTP that I ended up entering into, where they said like you need to pay the agent like 10% of the property value. Like, should you decide to cancel the OTP and the bank has already like approved your bond, if you want to get out, then you'll have to pay like 10% to the agent that was selling the property. I was like, what the hell? It's a lot of money. Imagine if that property is like R1,000,000, then you have to give them 100K. From where? So you see, it's quite important to understand what you're getting yourself into, and to just have someone. I mean, I always say I'm not a lawyer, so definitely get a lawyer to, look into that contract, put in terms and conditions to protect yourself, which is also like one other thing that I actually didn't know initially, like with my first OTP, the fact that you can't just take it as it is, and you don't have to take it as it is unless if your lawyer reads over it and they're also happy with the terms and conditions, and they feel you're protected. You can say, let's put in clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relating to item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the house or the apartment or whatever it is that you're buying. So you have equal amount of power to amend that document before you put your signature on the dotted line. So it's definitely something that I would say be on the lookout for. And if you are not sure, I know that agents and all of that, they're very persuasive, and they might tell you, oh, other people are looking to buy the property as well. They might give you that false sense of urgency and pressure because they also want to make a sale. But I think with everything that you buy, it's important to realize that the person who is selling something to you have something to gain from the sale. They are making money out of the sale. And to be quite honest, although there are regulations and all of that to force their interests to be aligned with yours, it's not necessarily the case in every situation that the agent or the advisor that you're dealing with or whoever you're dealing with will be 100% for you as a person, because they're making money out of this. So if they can sell you that property, that's commission for them. They move on to the next property, but you will be stuck with that property for the next 20 years, 25 years, or whatever years. That's a long time to be stuck with something that you don't want. So if you are not sure about whether you want this thing or not, then take your time, think. You can always tell them, I have to think about this. You don't need to act under pressure. You don't need to be pressured into making a certain decision, because it's a legally binding agreement that is very, very difficult to get out of. And it's also stressful to try get out of it. Trust me, I went through the whole jab. I know. It's stressful. Save yourself the stress. If you can run now, run. Like, if you can avoid getting yourself into all that stress, avoid it. But at the end of the day, I think what my guests emphasize, which I would like to anchor even in this video, is the fact that, with property, investing in property has become, accessible and all of that. You can do it in different ways. You can do the property stokvel route. You can, go to the bank, do it on your own, do it with your husband, do it with your siblings. But what I will also say is never do it with your lover. Never do it with your lover. And I say that laughing and joking, but it's a serious thing, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, umjolo wetu has been going on well, so let's buy a house together and whatever. It becomes really complicated when y'all break up. It becomes messed up. So, try to avoid it by all means. Like, try to avoid it, because you don't want to be staying with someone because you have a bond with them. A bond is such a big deal. Don't just get into a bond with anyone. Okay, cool. So those are like the chats I wanted to just have, and some of the things I wanted to emphasize before we close the property series, which I absolutely enjoyed it. I think one thing that I sort of like a development area for myself is I want to be a better interviewer. I know that as an interviewee, I'm a great interviewee. Like, trust me, I'll be there with the questions, answering the questions, releasing bombs. But what I've been working on recently is just interviewing people and being flexible in interviewing different people, because people come with different personalities. So being able to adapt to people's different personalities and all of that. In some interviews, I'm laid back because I can tell that the guest has a lot to say. Other interviews, I try to, be more proactive because I feel like I want to get something out of them and I'm not getting everything out of them. So I've been just practicing that skill, because I know like it's going to be really, really important in future when I have to interview important people, and that's just one thing that I've been sort of working towards, and I've been enjoying it so far, just seeing how much I've grown in the way I interview people. I used to struggle with like saying a lot when I interview people, like because I feel like I do it to show someone that I'm listening to them. But if you listening to the like interview afterwards, you're like, okay, that's a bit distracting. So I've been like analyzing how I interview people and all of that. Maybe you guys can also like give some tips in the comment section to say how I'm doing. I laugh a lot, and I've just accepted that that's part of who I am when I interview people. Like, laughing will definitely be a part of it. I struggle with looking at the camera and also focusing on my guests. I end up just looking at the guests overall. Still working on that, still trying to find the balance between looking at the camera and looking at the guests. But having, maybe when the production is growing and we have more cameras, then I don't need to worry about that, because we can just do a side shot and another side shot, and then when we edit, we can just alternate. But yeah, I think it's been a very, very interesting, informative, very mind-blowing, I'll just throw in all the words, mind-blowing, fantastic, fabulous, amazing, brilliant series, even if I have to say so myself. And I hope to do more of those series in future, but focusing on different things, of course, about money and all of that. And now the final thing, I think I didn't want to do the check-in first, because it's like, why would you check in first? You have to check in first, of course, but to get you guys to listen to this part of the video is to say, well, yeah, checking in, right? I know I went AWOL, and I think I was just in a space that didn't allow me to be recording and doing all of these things. I had to focus on myself, and I knew that I had to prioritize myself, prioritize my mental health, prioritize like my own peace and all of that, because there was a lot that was going on. Like when someone says I was under fire. Is that what they say? But yeah, you know what I mean. When someone says like I feel like I was under fire, that's what it felt like. And I just needed time out. And we were in the middle of a series, and I also just didn't feel, at that point in time, I didn't feel like I want to pick up a camera and record something I genuinely didn't feel like recording. And even on socials, I think what I was sharing on socials was mainly just jokes, and nothing much. There wasn't much of me on all my social media platforms. And I just felt like I needed time out. I took leave at work. I spent time with my family, and those were just things that I was trying to do to just get myself, into a good space. And that time out really, really helped. And I was just reflecting on how beginning of the year, one of my resolution was to actually listen to my body more and to rest even more. And I felt like because I didn't take leave in December, just went straight into 2023, continued, with projects that I was doing and all of that, just ran with everything. It kind of felt like I hadn't really taken a break from last year, and all that stress and all that pressure and everything was piling up slowly but surely, and I was just like, we cannot continue like this. So hence I needed to take time out. And I'm also just grateful for the people that reached out. A lot of people reached out like, hey girl, what's going on? You've been missing in action, like where you at? Are you okay? And this is to say, yes, I'm okay. And it took a while to like get here. It took a lot, because it kind of felt like I was on autopilot, and the scariest thing was how I didn't even realize myself that I was on autopilot. And so when I kind of like got signals from my body when I couldn't sleep properly, when I was just overwhelmed and anxious, I was just like, okay, clearly there's something going on. Those are just, it's an alarm system. It's your body telling you, dude, something is wrong. And I had to listen. And so I had to tender to my needs and figure out how to get out of the situation I was in. And I feel I am well rested now. I am ready to take on 2023, the remainder of 2023 with a storm. So yeah, I think it's a reminder to each and every single one of us that we are mortal beings. Number one, you're not a robot, you're a mortal being, and if needed, take time out, rest. I'd say rest, because it doesn't help to continue pushing while you're not at your best. It just slows everything down. Trust me, you won't achieve much by trying to push yourself if you're not in your best, state. So make time, have pockets of rest. Catch pockets of rest. It doesn't have to be you sleeping 10 hours every single night or 8 hours every single night, but just that time out, reading a book, that time out doing something, it's needed. And I was reading this other book, Defiant Joy. I will do a review on it probably this week on my Instagram. It was really an amazing book. It just filled my cup so much when I was going through everything, and I just felt, like God was just speaking and pouring out so much into me, because it felt like I was walking on empty for a long time without realizing that I'm walking on empty. So yeah, guys, to think it's just been a few months of 2023 and already we're talking about being empty. But anyways, this is to say you're allowed to not be okay, and if you're not okay, tender to your needs. Whatever you have to do to take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, do that. Spiritually, do that. There's help, there's psychologists, there's family, there's friends, there's a support structure that you can lean on. So do take advantage of that. But I love you guys so much, and I'm hoping that we'll continue to journey together. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Oh, bye.